Hi, I am art prof teaching artist Lauryn Welch. Welcome to our stream. I am here today with Professor Lieu, and we are going to be going over your December Art Dare submissions and featured entries. This is really fun. We did idioms this month, but before that, if your studio habits need a kick in the butt, Art Prof has everything you need: tutorials, critiques, and professional development. Clara, can you tell us a little bit about what an idiom is and what the impetus was to have this be the Art Dare?
An idiom is basically a saying that represents some other idea. So what we're looking at here is, quote, a coat of arms, which technically speaking is a family symbol or crest or something like that. But this has been illustrated literally as a coat that is made of arms. And so that's what we asked people to do, was to pick an idiom and to illustrate it in some manner. And it was inspired by this book that I read 10 billion times as a child called The King Who Reigned. And you can see it's taking idioms and illustrating them in a very playful way. So for example, this one is there's a fork in the road. And so you have literal forks that are creating roads. And what was so fun about this, Lauryn, was that people had idioms from all different countries and cultures. And I just feel like this was such a learning experience. Like I learned so many idioms that I just didn't even know about. So that was half the fun, is seeing the idioms that people did. All right. The first artist we're going to take a look at is Jackie Fuchs. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. Jackie is from South Africa. And Jackie says, I can really identify with the idiom I chose as I do it all the time. I'm not even going to try to read this version in Afrikaans, but the rough translation is fetch the baboon from behind the hill. And what that idiom means is to think or talk about things that haven't happened yet and make them happen. So Jackie says, I did a rough pencil sketch, developed my lines, completed lines in fine liner, and finished with some beautiful watercolor. What do you think, Lauryn? How did Jackie do?
Well, first of all, I was very struck by this idiom. I'd never heard of it. And I always wonder how these turns of phrase come into existence. Like maybe it is geographically motivated. Maybe there are baboons down there. Certainly there are no baboons in New York City, or I would hope not. But I love how you have fetched this baboon with what looks like a piece of dried mango or something like that. I can picture this action happening in real time, where there is baboon behind that rock and you're wondering if it's there or not. And then you're like, hey, come here. I know you're here. Ta-da! It's very fun image.
Well, there's one choice that Jackie made that I think was really smart in the illustration, which is to not include the human face. Yeah. Because really, this illustration, it's about the baboon. It's not really about the person. The person is a vehicle trying to fetch the baboon. But really, we look at the baboon first. And so that was really great. And I also like that the hill is pretty specific. Sometimes when people illustrate hills, it's just like a mound. But this seems like a particular landscape. Jackie, I don't know if there's any particular place that we were thinking about, but I just love the specificity of the image.
Agreed. I think that it feels very place-specific for a place-specific idiom. And I agree with that, not having the face at all. I was just doing a different portfolio crit that where we were talking about faces and how the eye just totally goes straight to the face once you include it. But here we're really looking at that exchange between the hand with the piece of mango and that baboon's face. The baboon's face is what we're focused on. So it was a really good decision.
Okay, the next artist we're going to look at, and by the way, oh, geez, I've got a frog in my throat this morning. If you guys are one of the featured artists, like Mareka, Blue Wolf Spirit points out, is in the chat and featured, let us know, because we love it when the artist joins us live. So tell us, and also tell us, did you do the art dare? So even the people who are not in the video, tell us if you did the art dare and what you learned or gained from it, because really this is about the community and you guys working together and inspiring each other. Okay, so let's talk about Dennis from the UK. And Dennis says the image was inspired by the German idiom, gosh, I don't speak German, totos, which means, quote, dead pants in English. It's used to describe any place or situation where nothing is going on, boring and lifeless. So Dennis explains that they decided to do a literal depiction of ragged pants in a, quote, lifeless place, a cemetery, deliberately chose dull colors and a complete lack of bright light, flowers, or birds in order to portray the meaning of the idiom. What do you think, Lauryn?
I had never heard of dead pants either. That is a great one. I'm going to try to use that sometime. But what I really loved about this piece was actually the color composition of this. Everything around these pants is within this green palette, but the pants themselves are a fairly saturated blue. They're almost glowing, so I'm really focused right on them. But they're also kind of stiff the way they're on this clothesline here. So in the context of the cemetery, they kind of feel zombie-like almost, Walking Dead, maybe.
I want to give a shout out to Jackie, who is the artist that we looked at previously. Thank you for the amazing comments, says Jackie. Well, thank you so much for joining us live. I just love this scene. It's so funny. And you know what's weird?
Yeah,
It's a pretty dark image, like cemetery, creepy looking pant. Like it's weird and very surrealistic, but it's got a real dark humor, right?
Yeah. That's what I love, that you can create a dark humor with this image for a phrase that basically means boring, nothing happening. Like you took it to something happening, which is a little bit ironic and also really, really fun.
Conceptual Truth says dead pants, new superhero. I guess there's Deadpool. Why can't we have dead pants? That's exactly it. Hellish D is asking, how do we know what the art dare is? Is it on Discord? It is. We have a channel in the Discord literally called Art Dares. And if you guys go up to the pinned message in that channel, we post all the information for that month's art dare. And if you go to artprof.org, we have a section in the menu bar called Art Dares, and you can sign up for email notifications. So we just send one email second day of the month to remind you guys what the dare is. So that's a good way to stay on top of it.
I think it's also on Instagram. You post about it too. That's how I always find out what the art dare is.
Okay, let's take a look at some images by AJ Johnson from the US. And AJ says, I thought this would be fun to do because there's so many idioms to pick from. You can represent them in any type of way. I looked up different idioms, and whatever I instantly thought, I immediately did thumbnails. Whichever idea I liked the best, I did. So AJ was a, quote, overachiever. I kind of hate that word, but anyway, AJ did several idioms and several pieces. What do you think?
Well, I love your initiative at doing several of them because I can only ever get one done. But also I think that there's a certain kind of humor here too a little bit. They're a little bit gory, but I associate these with emotional scenes, usually having to do with heartbreak or love. You have the head over heels and then probably the crying your eyes out when you break up. And so I'm really getting this sense of love is tearing us apart, and it makes me laugh a little bit.
By the way, AJ is live here in the chat, so everybody let AJ know how they did with their art dare, because wow, AJ, you were very productive. And it's great. I mean, you don't have to do that. I mean, the requirement for the art dare really is just one piece, but we do have something called the Art Dare Leap. So if you guys want to do something a little bit more ambitious, we definitely have had people do multiple pieces for the same art dare, and it's a really great way to expand upon that opportunity. Now, Lauryn, you are the marker expert here. So what's your take on AJ's marker technique?
I think that AJ is really getting a lot of saturation and graphicness out of the markers, which is what they're there for, you know? I think that the color, especially in this pink and orange one, is really fun. And it almost reminds me of tattoo work a little bit, where you have these really bright colors and really nice outlines. I'm looking at the crossing your fingers one for that. And so maybe that is a direction that you're looking at going in future things that involve these graphic elements, graphic design type elements.
Mareka says, what a bloody series of drawings. Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that, but I think in every single one there is blood involved.
Yeah, they are. They're a little bit gory, but they're kind of funny. Like the blood doesn't make me go, ugh, gross. Even the one with the eyes coming out doesn't make me feel repulsed. It's more like a comic book kind of blood, where it's not real, but it signifies something.
I think for me, part of the reason these are fairly whimsical, despite the dark imagery, I think a lot of it's in the color, because a lot of the colors, they're very sad. Well, not so much this one, but some of the other ones, like this one especially, the colors are pretty bright. This one's sort of like that pastel, everything's peachy keen type of color scheme, even though you got blood coming out of your eye.
Yeah.
So I just really like the contrast behind the darkness of the subject matter and the imagery, whereas the depiction of it is actually quite fun in a way. So
yeah, it's charming.
Yeah, that's really great. Okay, let's look at the next artist, who is Charisma Dozier, from the US. And Charisma says the Icelandic idiom to lay your head on water. It means to think deeply on a situation or decision. Charisma says they wanted to depict the idiom in a way that showed water having its own agency, actively calming the person by having them flow into the literal body of water. So Charisma says that I sought to make the background more subdued and not too overwhelming, have this feeling of dripping down, almost matching the slowness of this interaction. Charisma ended up using gouache because they said it'd be easier for them to build up the values, and then also pen and ink to help create some spatial difference from the figures and the background.
Wow, this is very pensive. It is very slow. It took me a while to find the image of the person in this, but now that I see it, wow, this is so cool. It feels like a book cover to a book that's magical and a little bit dark. I feel like you've gotten the emotional quality really well in this that goes along with this idiom.
Seven Angelic says the overall thing gives the feeling of water. Neat. Yeah, I like that, because even though the water is personified, there is this overall like drip downwards. I guess because there's this cave-like background. Are those stalactites, stalagmites? I can't remember which is which. They might fall
You've
down,
asked this several streams and I never remember.
I can't remember.
I think it's also,
anyway.
Oh, I think it's also a medium choice too. I think gouache and using it very wetly, very transparently was a great way to go here. You can signify water with water.
Halish D says, I love this color for water. I think many people tend to paint it blue. That's a great point, because we've talked a lot here about cliches and images that tend to feel generic. And this is definitely stepping outside of that. Like Conceptual Truth says, nice, subtle green-orange pairing. And Lauryn, isn't it cool that Charisma added the actual words into the image? I know some people did, not everybody did, but I really like that as like a grounding for the image.
Yeah, I think that's part of what's making me feel like it is a book cover or some anthology cover, or even that font looks a little bit like the New Yorker font, I think. So I think that's what's pulling me there. But I also want to say that green is kind of phantomy, ghost-like too, which I think is adding to that sense of quiet solitude in this image.
Thank you, Orange Cat Spirit. Stalactite is up, stalagmite is down. That's it, because the ones that are mite, they might fall down.
Ah.
I'm going to have to try to remember that. Okay, the next artist is Laura Suyapa Ramos from Honduras. And Laura did two pieces. So this first one that we're looking at is called Under a Good Shade. I'm not going to try to read the Spanish, but the literal translation means if you go under a tree, you will have a good shade. Traditional meaning, this is the advantage of having a good relationship with people or entities in power. That is so specific.
I love that.
That is really cool. Okay, and then the second one that Laura did is, quote, on the same page, which is basically people sharing ideas that can be done through a book, but it's also an interchange and a play of ideas. Oh, and by the way, Laura also explains that because they live in a tropical country, which is very hot, every time I'd go to the beach or picnic, there'd be hammocks under the big trees, and somebody would say this phrase, which is under a good shade. So to me, that is what it really means. On a hot, sunny day, a cool shade under a tree to enjoy a good nap or a great book. What do you think, Lauryn?
Yeah, this piece, I love this piece. It's got such a wonderful sense of nostalgia and of light. I can feel the filtered light hitting this person's face here. And I agree with the chat comments here that those leaves are so well done. They add to that sense of soft memory. It's beautiful.
Yeah, people are pointing out a lot of really nice qualities. Like Dara is saying the shadows are really well done. And Seven Angelic says, love that purple.
Yeah.
Boyton Lee says, I like Laura's use of color, especially the true roots. Oh, I love it. I didn't even take a minute to really look at that.
Yeah, I've been focused on the upper half, but the lower half is just as good.
I love the leaves at the top. They really feel like there's light shining through them. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, I think that this does a good job at showing that. I mean, you also have this relationship between the dog and the figure here, which brings it back to this idea of having an empathy or a good relationship with someone to create an amenable or a good position for yourself.
Hellish G says, it's really interesting to learn how different idioms express things that might not have the same meaning when translated to other languages. It's like idioms are secret codes for every culture.
Yes, they are.
Absolutely. Yep. And it's so funny how sometimes they're just so specific. It's just like, really? You need to explain that very particular circumstance, but I guess sometimes that's just what you need. So how about this one, Lauryn?
This one, I think, is a really simple but well done graphic explanation. Again, I think of illustrations that are, say, in the New York Times, where they'll do something like this, have two figures talking to each other across a distance. So I think that this one comes across really quickly. I immediately know what this means without even needing to look at the caption.
And I really enjoy the placement of the book, the way that it's been cropped. We've been getting on you guys for composition. Yeah. So it's great to see people really doing a nice job with that, because like the baboon image by Jackie, we really are focusing on the people and their interaction. I mean, sure, the book is part of that context, but ultimately it does come down to the relationship between the two people being on the same page.
I also like the sense of light in this one. Look at how they have shadows underneath them. This person was looking at light sources.
And Dara says the light bulb and shadow are doing a lot for this image. And Mareka says, I bet Laura did her thumbnails.
Yes, this was like a thumbnailed piece.
Okay, the next piece is by Sarah Manuel from the US, and the idiom is a deal with the devil. So Sarah explains, the scene I had in mind was when the gentleman had signed the contract. Perhaps he was tricked and now has to pay dearly, which in this case may be with his life. So Sarah says, I used a palette focused on the complementary colors red and green. Red being a color typically associated with the devil, green to provide contrast. And Sarah says you could also say the devil's client got himself into a hairy situation.
Extra credit for using double idioms in one image. That's very good.
By the way, just a quick shout out to Laura, whose work we just talked about, who confirms I did a whole lot of thumbnails to get the composition. Awesome. Good job, you guys. Yay. What about this composition, Lauryn?
Oh, it's so good. It's so dynamic. I feel this one as well must have had a lot of thumbnails. Either that or you're just really good at automatically placing things where they need to go, because my eye is traveling all around. I love how that horn, the left horn, is getting cropped off even. I can slide down that onto the nails, the sharp nails, and then around the hair to this trapped green Faustian character here. And the red-green color palette is also a really imaginative one. Red and green is always the hardest to work with, and you have used these cool greens that I think really transform what a red-green color palette can be. It's not Christmassy or anything. It feels very specific to this image.
Carrie Ann says, fire eyes, love them. And Nivedita says, ooh, the double character is well done. And Atta Girl is asking digital, right? Yes, it is digital. Yeah. And if you guys look at the text in the lower right-hand corner, you will see that we do provide that information. And also, if you guys want to check out more of these artists, if you guys go down to the YouTube video description, we have linked to everybody's website. So you can go and see the other stuff that they are doing. And Karen says, I love the return of the pointy things that come back in horns, nails, and teeth. That is true, because they all have that similar sharp, elegant curve to them. That's really cool.
And they're all within that same white-green color range. I feel like there's a Japanese stylization happening here, maybe. I don't know if that is the particular country or area that is correct to that, but there's definitely a very strong sense of style that I am interested in here.
Yeah, like Seven Angelic is saying, I like the Oni style of the devil. Yeah. That's probably what you're referencing. Yeah. And I love the hair. The hair is so good.
Yeah, it really is. And it matches the little, you see the fingerprints, the little swirly fingerprints on the devil. It's got some of that same swirling texture to it.
Dara says, Sarah is in the chat. Well, Sarah, if you are still here, type something in the chat. We would love to give you a shout out. It's so nice when you guys show up live. We just love it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the next artist, who is Dara. And Dara says, for the art dare, I want to focus on the process, doing thumbnails and making the finished image. So what I've done for the slideshow is we've shown you guys the finished piece here, which is def as a post. And then on the next slide, we show the finished piece next to Dara's thumbnails, because, oh man, you did a lot of thumbnails, Dara. So Dara says that they picked a medium that they're already familiar with, so I have fewer decisions to make to think about the background. And Dara says the thumbnails were definitely important. Sometimes the obvious choice worked out, but sometimes there were better options to convey with the intent of the idiom. And Dara also says, intending to bring these drawings to a point of finish meant I had to be slightly more deliberate with composition at the beginning, so I didn't end up at the end with a shoot, now what do I do moment, looking at a blank background.
Yeah, one of the things that I think that these thumbnails really helped out with was when to know to break the edges of your image. Like, none of these are your typical, oh, I'm going to do it just straight in a rectangle. There's always some interruption of the border. And I think that's kind of a hard skill to do and do well. But I think in all of these, it's pretty well thought out. Like, it's very clean.
You probably like this one, right, Lauryn?
Yes, look, I wore this just to match this image today. I'm not even kidding. Although I was expecting the idiom, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I was surprised that that was not in here as well. But I love this.
I want to give a shout out to Sarah, whose artwork we just looked at with the devil digital image, who says, this was so much fun. Thanks for the feature. Well, thank you so much for being here, Sarah, so we can give you a big shout out. Yeah, Lauryn, I was going to say, one of my favorite things about this series is the format. How, as you mentioned, every single image, despite there being some type of frame, it's so clear that that was a very intentional compositional decision. Because sometimes when I see people do that, it's like, oh, well, you couldn't fit it in, and so you just happened to do that. But it's really clear from the thumbnails and from how those disruptions happen in the format that Dara definitely did that on purpose.
The balance is really good in all of them. And the frames change too. They're not all the same. Like this easy pie one matches the pie latticing, which I thought was very cool.
And they're funny. I mean, yeah. Like some of them have a great sense of like, oh my God, I love the outfit. This
is not what I had ever thought of when someone said easy as pie. Now I will never think of that idiom in the same way ever again. I will think of this Betty Boop-like pie character.
Oh, look, Nathaniel says, this is my sister. Oh, that's so cool. We love it when it's a family affair here at Art Prof.
We've got a few of those on Art Prof.
We do. And Karen says, well, Lauryn, Dara has learned from you all not to go for the obvious.
Yay! You know, sometimes, actually most of the time, you guys do better at the things that we say than we do for ourselves. Like we give you these tips and this information on don't go for the obvious, and then I'll go right over and just like go for the obvious. But you you actually take those words to heart and really try and bring these ideas to fruition into these like really interesting and engaging ideas. So thank you. At least somebody's doing it.
Laura, do you ever go into our Discord and you're like, dude, I'm not making this much work?
Yes, all the time. Like, oh my God, such a fraud. I'm such a fraud. But
I am totally mispronouncing your name. Sorry, it's Dara. Okay.
Dara.
I'm definitely working on that. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to try my best to remember. This one's really cute too. I just love the patterning, the pattern around the basket, and even the speech bubbles.
Yeah, I like how the speech
fun.
Bubbles match the eggs.
By the way, you guys, we're doing a double header today. So if you want to chill with all 6 of us on the stream all at once, we're doing a special live stream. It's our winter raffle finale. This is the final hour of the winter raffle. Please note the unusual time, because this is not the usual time we stream. It's going to be at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's not a typo, just so you guys know.
Oh,
I'm so curious, Laura, because we've never been live together.
It's going to be really fun. I'm excited for it. I'm hoping that we all just remember to get that time, because Clara, even though you've been talking about this for a while now, I still was like, oh, hey, we're going live at 10. Not the case. It's 11. It's 11. It's 11, guys. 11 Eastern Standard Time. But I'm really excited to see Kat and Jordan especially, because they're all the way off on the West Coast and I never, ever see them.
Yep. Orange Cat Spirit, all 6 is going to be a big party. It's going to be really, really fun. I mean, who knows what's going to happen, Laura? This has never happened before.
You know, wild things could happen. It could be a party. Something unforgettable could happen that you have to be there to see.
Exactly. And if you guys have not checked out the raffle, definitely go to the raffle page, which is linked in the video description below. We have a broad range of raffle prizes that are going to be really fun. Like you could get some magical art supplies that just show up on your front porch, if you have a front porch. And we also have things like Kat's graphic novel about her life in middle school, which is freaking hilarious.
Oh, so funny.
It's so good. I mean, my book is not remotely as fun, but hopefully...
I learned a lot from your book. But
it's fine.
Kat's book is funnier.
If I had to pick between the two, I would pick Kat's book over mine. So as a reminder, there are 3 ways to enter. You can comment on one of the raffle videos. There's one that we did about 2 weeks ago, and then there'll be the one tonight. You can also do a one-time donation, $5 or more, or you can pledge minimum $1 monthly on Patreon. Now, some of you guys are already Patreon supporters. So if you are, just bump up your donation by $1, and that will get you guys into the raffle. W315 says, are you doing the raffle drawing at midnight? We are not, because the thing is, we're going to have a lot of donations that are going to come in like last minute. And so we want to make sure that we count all of those. So we'll probably do a raffle drawing on a stream a week from now once we've been able to collect all of the information. Okay. The next artist we're going to look at is Carrie Jenkins from Canada, who says they used the phrase, quote, video conference. I think a lot of us have been doing this lately. So Carrie says, it gave me a perfect opportunity to shift back to the 80s when a, quote, video was a solid entity that you recorded TV shows on and then scribbled on with a Sharpie so you knew what show was on it. Did you ever do that, Lauryn? Are you that young?
Yes, because that was still around in the 90s. I remember watching, I believe it was The 10th Kingdom on video cassette over and over and over again. That and Princess Mononoke. Those are my favorite films that I rent from the video store.
Lauryn, the number of Star Trek The Next Generation tapes we had because of my brother, oh my God, it like filled like a whole bookcase.
Oh, they're so blocky. They take up so much room, especially if you have, well, there are the paper cases, and then there are the plastic cases, the big chunky ones that the Disney movies were always in.
So Carrie goes on to explain, the idea to have my videos attending a conference followed, but it had to be an 80s conference, so they'd have an overhead projector instead of a PowerPoint. Yeah. Thinking about the difference between then and now brought the video store chain Blockbuster to mind, but I didn't want to go too obvious about it, so I used my impression of the Blockbuster logo, colored the whole scene in the Blockbuster brand colors, blue and yellow, to evoke that context.
So smart. I was definitely thinking, oh, this is about Blockbuster the entire time. I love that you did a lot of research or put in a lot of specifics to that culture, to that situation and time period. I feel that just emanating off of this down to the carafes for the coffee, where the coffee's probably gotten cold, and those projectors, the projector with the acetate screen that you put on, and yeah, you use the Sharpie to write on them. It's very visceral in my mind, this memory.
I'm guessing conceptual truth that you're Carrie. I'm not sure, but you're saying thanks everyone. So I'm guessing this is probably your work. So if that is you, Carrie, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, and like people are pointing out such cool things. Like Mareka says, I love the coffee cups in the foreground. It's such a typical detail. And Orange Cat Spirit says the amount of VHS tapes I have is concerning. I can fully relate. And okay, cool. Conceptual truth is Carrie. Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, also I do want to say on this one, it's a little bit disturbing to me how these video cassettes are sitting. The video cassette was actually bent like this. I would just have I would be the eyes popping, head exploding emoji.
Also, good job on your linear perspective, Carrie. Yes, the linear perspective police approves. And on top of that, what cool lighting. I love the lighting from that. I know what that lighting looks like. It's so specific, right?
Mm-hmm. Had to have lived through it to know it.
Nathaniel says, hopefully you guys archive this stream so our family can humble brag on our sister with our friends later. Brag away, because all of the live streams become available afterwards. You just got to wait like a half an hour for the video to process. Okay, the next artist we're going to look at is, oh God, I hope I'm saying your name right. You've told me so many times and I just cannot always get it. Is it Mareka? I know it's not Mareka. I know that. But anyway, Mareka is from Germany, and they say the idiom is a cat in a bag. It goes back to the practice of deceivingly selling a dead cat instead of a much better tasting and more expensive rabbit and hare? That is so... Have you heard of that, Lauryn?
I had never heard the background to this. Again, I'm learning so much about idioms, even just ones that we use here in the US or in England or whatever. I don't know the backgrounds for, so this was great.
I'm laughing because the idiom I do know is the cat's out of the bag. I've never heard a cat in a bag.
I think that would be related though, right? They probably come from the same... I don't know. Anyways, it was bizarre reading this, and it was like, oh, people eating cats. Oh no.
Oh, what's this for you?
I have to hide him.
It's a little bit traumatic. So anyway, Mareka says, I played with the idea. It's unclear what's being sold here. An animal, a drawing, a mysterious product called, quote, Maxi Cat. In my opinion, the real cat in a bag here is the company Amazon, which is a problematic company for various reasons. Amazon peaked in 2020. I was able to smuggle in the date. You guys, if you look carefully, it says reduced in Germany till 31/12/2020, December 31st, 2020. And so Mareka says the text is real, as well as the price for the book, Peter Rabbit. Other options include rabbits of great quality and a dead sparrow on the lower right, which says it goes back to the Dutch idiom to be happy with a dead sparrow, which means to be happy with nothing special. Oh my God.
I think that this in particular stood out to me because it is so conceptually formatted, very new media, very multimedia kind of approach. We don't often get, we get a lot of visual and aesthetic works, but not a lot that have this performative nature to them. So I was really, first of all, that's totally on point about Amazon. I've ordered things off of there from companies I didn't know about. They say they give you this, they show a picture of one thing, and then the actual item you get is something not what you ordered, of very inferior quality. So I love the play on that, and that you either posted your stuff up there for real or photoshopped it to look as if you did. I thought that was very fun.
Karen says, love the picture, and the Miffy picture is a nice Dutch detail. Well, some of you guys were saying earlier in the stream, like, that some of the idioms were like typical German humor. And that's just so funny to me because I do think comedy is pretty specific to certain cultures. Like when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of Monty Python. It's such a particular type of humor that we don't really have in the US. It's very dry and different.
That's too
so
smart
this is
for
really
me.
Exactly. So I just love the format of this because I know Mareka did the drawing itself, but then beyond the drawing, thinking about, okay, well, where does the drawing go? And what is the purpose of the drawing? And what does that mean in terms of corporate companies like Amazon? And oh my God, that dead sparrow.
Yeah.
It's killing
and
me
it's,
right now.
It's 60 euros. Like, and people are pointing, the 1-star conceptual truths is the 1-star review. I also want to read the 1-star review. I think that's hilarious. So here, the context is clearly what's making these, or this image or this entry shine.
Exactly. And it's contemporary. It's one that we can all relate to and recognize, but it's clearly a spoof.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it is. I hope it's a spoof.
I kind of want to try it out. I want to look this up. I think I actually did try to look it up and see if I could find it, but nothing was showing up for me.
Now see the real thing, Mareka, if you like broke into Amazon's code and like listed it.
That's the next step. You gotta go all the way next time.
All right, we've got a bunch of pieces from VERonica La Padula. Sorry if that's incorrect. VERonica is from France, and VERonica explains, I'm passionate by languages since my younger age. I followed a literature-oriented high school where I learned Latin and Old Greek. And they also learned French and English, and during their stay in Germany, also some German. Oh my God, I'm so jealous. That sounds awesome. And VERonica says linguistic expressions tell a lot about the, quote, philosophy of the population speaking a language, enriching and adding color to the communication. And some of the expressions are so visually engaging, I decide to put them on paper. I have a list of more than 100.
Wow. So many. Way above and beyond. I particularly love this painted heart one, though. I think that's what that means, right? Cor de Pietra? Man, don't quote me on my French. But I think that the number...
I think that's Italian.
Oh, Italian. Sorry, Italian. I really love the different types of textures being used here and how all the colors, the contrast is very vibrant between each one. Like that it looks like a watercolor type technique on that orangey gray side really contrasts well against the light blue up there, the turquoise. I really love that.
I want to give a shout out to VERonica, who is live here with us in the chat, who says, perfect, my family name.
Oh.
And more than 100 just in French and Italian.
Oh my God.
This is it.
I'm so dumb. I'm sorry, guys.
I knew it had something to do with stone because I feel like in Italian, I think cobblestones are like San Pietrini, which is like Little St. Peters.
I had a teacher once upon a time, and her name was Petrovito, and she always told us that it had stone. Her name had stone in it. So this is making sense. I'm sorry, guys. I butchered this. It's terrible. Don't listen to me. I'm gonna leave now.
This one I think is so funny and weird. I think it's, Vanessa, we need you to have the hand of, I don't know what bucate, I don't know how to say that. I don't know what that means, but it's eerie, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, that you know that type of phobia with holes.
Tryptophobia.
Yes. This kind of, it's not quite there yet, but it's getting there. I can feel myself go, I do not like that idea.
Okay, so VERonica explains to have holes in your hands. What does that mean? That's such a cool phrase. I just love that so much.
It's a very engaging image. Like, I can't stop looking at it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So VERonica explains because money flows through them. So I guess it's somebody who spends money.
They're the size of coins.
That's brilliant. And Sojourner says it's like Gouda cheese.
I feel like cheese hands is also something somewhere.
And we have another one. I think this is French. Anyway, we need your help. Me and Lauryn are not exactly the linguistics.
Du lait means milk. I do know that.
What's
I don't know what the first part, un nuage de lait, is that it?
Maybe it's like a storm because it looks like a storm.
Is it a storm of milk?
Maybe, but it's cute. Isn't it adorable?
It is. A cloud of milk. Oh, I love that. I love that. That's like on a latte. They whip it up really, really high.
Oh, that's adorable. I wish I had a cloud of milk on top of mine.
I know, that's really charming.
Yeah, conceptual truth. This is good advice. Do not Google image tryptophobia or you will get it as well. Don't you guys. I've done it and it's not good. Because I was like, what? That's not gross. And then I was like, okay, it's horrible.
Yes, this is much more peaceful and I would rather look at all the clouds in my milk and all the pictures of clouds in milk.
Oh, VERonica says it's because the milk is like a cloud when it hits the coffee. Cool.
Ah, I like that too.
And Emil says, I've never learned so much about other languages. Oh, I loved the stare for that reason. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love our international audience is that I feel that I'm learning so much about the world.
Yeah, me too. I know nothing about anything. You guys reaffirm that every day.
VERonica says this one, to fall as a mature pear. That is really funny. And I love how your pear looks like it weighs 10,000 pounds.
Yeah, it's got a butt to it. I wonder if
does.
this will demonetize our video because this pear has got a butt.
Oh, it definitely does. It's very accentuated. I love it. It's so good. And
I love this one.
Have when the ASS wants to fly. I think that's it.
I feel like that seems like it would be related to pigs flying to me, maybe. But I really love this one because it looks so awkwardly sitting. He wants to fly, can't yet. It's just a really cute portrait. I love the way that the legs stick out straight at the bottom, parallel to each other.
Oh, and VERonica explains it means to fall in love very easily. Oh, that's so funny. I think that's hilarious. Okay, guys, the prizes go to. The honorable mention goes to Mareka for the cat in the bag being sold on Amazon. We just thought this was brilliant. And I think that it goes to show that art is not always about how realistically you can draw something. It's beyond that. And we just loved that Mareka really pushed the concept here because I do think it's easy to get wrapped up in technique.
Yeah. I think that this is exercising one of those tools that we've tried to talk somewhat about, but haven't really encompassed the full world of how your art exists in the world. And I think this piece really brought that into the forefront.
Mareka says, "Oh, thank you so much. I never expected that." And people are congratulating Mareka. Sojourner says, "Claps for that cat in the bag. It's hilarious and disturbing all at once." It really is. So great job with this piece. And the prize goes to Dara for so much work on beautifully planned compositions, wonderful backgrounds, and just great overall job. I mean, this is a ton of work, Lauryn, that Dara put into the piece.
Yeah, I feel like Dara, the next step is making a book out of these because you made like 10 or 15 already. And they're all extremely well thought out and formatted, and it is such a beautiful compilation to look at all together.
You're welcome, Dara. I mean, you really put a lot of effort into this project. So great job. A great job to everybody. I mean, the prizes to me, they're like icing on the cake. But honestly, the real reward of this is building the community, you guys egging each other on, inspiring each other, and getting into the Discord, and everybody just working together on the dare is super fun. By the way, there are still 2 more days for you guys to do the paper trail collages, which is the art dare for this month. And if you guys go to our Instagram, we do have an Instagram highlight that shows the current submissions. So you guys can check that out, get some inspiration. Also go to the Discord. I know, Dara, you posted one the other day, and I think that Priya also posted one as well. So would love to see what you guys do for that. And make sure, if you want to submit, that you tag us on Instagram, art.prof, and you use hashtag artprofshare so we can find it. We also have a submission form on artprof.org if you are not on social media. ArtProf has a podcast. It's available on Spotify and also on iTunes. And in a few minutes, Lauryn and I will be hanging out in the ArtProf Discord. We will be in the post live streams channel so we can talk more idioms and Amazon and all kinds of other topics. Subscribe to our channel so you can continue to develop and grow as an artist. Look at how many people are on the top Patreon supporter slide.
Guys, we need, this is fantastic. We need more so that we can start another page. I'm trying to get Clara to start another page of Patreon supporters.
I can't wait, guys. I really want to have another page. I was saying to Lauryn, do you remember when we had 4 people on this list?
They were just in huge font.
They were like huge block. And that was when we were using a different platform, and so it was a square.
Yeah. So look at how far we've come, and it's all thanks to you guys. Thank you so, so much for all of your contributions.
And remember, hang out with us 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. Art Prof party, pigs might fly, or maybe the donkeys might fly, whatever. So anyway, you guys, join us then. It's going to be a blast. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.